allow me to share with you how 3 different people responded to the very first Christmas, to the birth of Jesus, as it's told in the New Testament writings. These things we call Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, all record different things about the life of Jesus, and Matthew and Luke specifically record the events of Jesus' birth. And allow me to share with you from their writings just 3 examples of how people responded to the first Christmas. The first one you can find in Matthew chapter 1, verse 18. It says, "This is how the birth of Jesus, the Messiah, came about. His mother Mary was pledged to be married to Joseph. But before they came together, she was found to be pregnant through the Holy Spirit." Now, for those of you who have been a while since you've read the Bible, before they came together, that is a quite interesting play on words. It means before they had sex, before they were intimate. But I just think it's funny that the Bible is so calm about saying that. And we have to thank the translators for their inability to use the word sex in a sentence. But anyways, verse 19 says, "Joseph, her husband, was faithful to the law, and yet did not want to expose her to public disgrace. He had in mind to divorce her quietly." So this is so interesting to me because Joseph, the man who gets to be Jesus's earthly father, his stepdad, I guess, I don't know how you want to look at it, but the guy who gets to raise Jesus, his first response to the coming birth of Jesus was, I'm just going to quietly dismiss this, and I kind of just want to move on. I'm not going to cause a scene. I just want to quietly move on from that. And I think for some of us, that's exactly what we're doing right now. Whether it's how you've responded to COVID, or how you're dealing with Christmas right now, or whatever is weighing on your mind before you were listening to this episode. I imagine some of us, our reaction is, let's kind of just move on from this as quickly as we can. Like, can we just bury this and move on? And he wasn't being a jerk to Mary, but logically he's like, look, if you're pregnant and we haven't been together physically, then something shady happened. And instead of shaming you or being mad at you, and since you're telling me that God, magically made you pregnant, then I'm just going to quietly push it aside and not deal with it. And I think for some of us, that's our response to right now. Is you and I just want to pretend it isn't happening. We want to quietly dismiss the situation and move on too quick. And the problem is that blinds us from what the moment calls for us to be. And so I want to read you another reaction. Here's another person's reaction to the very first Christmas. It's another man, not a very good person, named Herod. It says in Matthew chapter 2, verse 1, "After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi," who are Magi? Magi are this very curious spiritual group of people. I think for those of us who live in northern Arizona, the best way to put it is it's kind of like people from Sedona. They're kind of dipping into all the spiritual practices, and it still somehow might lead them to Jesus. Don't know how that works, but there it is, and that's only funny to people in Arizona. Anyway, so during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem, and he asked, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We, the Magi, saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all of Jerusalem with him. Some of us, the way we've responded to the fact that Christmas is only a few days away, or the way some of us have responded to the last year, 2020, and to our current problems, crisis, suffering, things you're facing in your life, the way we respond is being incredibly disturbed, fearful, and worried. And you and I have gone into full-blown, I'm going to fix this, I'm going to make it work, I'm going to solve this problem. You know what Herod is famous for doing is he moves on from here and declares that we've got to kill all the boys in this area, in this part of the world, so that this coming Messiah can't be alive or born. And all this craziness has to happen to save and rescue Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. And so I think it's interesting that Herod here is clearly not a good person. When he's told that there's a God-sent Messiah, king, here to bring us good news, his response is fear and terror. And I think for some of us, that's our response to anything that has to do with religion or God or spirituality. It's fear, it's terror, because something in us makes us feel guilty or scared, or like we won't be welcomed by God. We won't be welcomed into church. We don't belong in religion. But the truth is, Jesus came to announce that very truth, that we're loved and forgiven and welcome. But people like Herod, who have a guilt, who are frantic and disturbed and worried they have something to hide. Actually, it should be noted that King Herod, only a few years after this event took place, he died from complications related to a sexually transmitted disease. That says loads to me about who he was and his life. So you have Joseph, who responded with, let's just quietly move on and dismiss this and hope it goes away. And then you have Herod, who responds with this, like, I'm disturbed, I'm worried. So let's read one more person, and this person is Mary. And it says in Luke chapter 2, verse 16, so they, the shepherds, hurried off, and they found Mary and Joseph and the baby, who were lying there in the manger. And when they, the shepherds, had seen him, they spread the word concerning what had been told about this child. All these shepherds are so excited, and it says that as they shared the word, verse 18, all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds had said to them. But, verse 19 tells us about Mary. But Mary treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart. Mary chooses a different path than Joseph and Herod. She looks at all of the things happening. I mean, this woman just got done doing the most strenuous, painful thing a body can do, and that is give birth to a baby. And she's sitting there treasuring the moment. She's pondering what it could mean in her heart. And I invite you this Christmas to think about how that could be exactly what you're looking for. Instead of trying to move on and quickly get through everything and hope it goes away and dismiss it and just quietly move on, or instead of trying to be frantic, disturbed, and worried and hurried and make everything work, what if you and I just chose deliberately every day to have moments with Jesus in quiet, solitude, and silence, and just treasure what's going on in our hearts? You know, there's lots of ways to look at Christmas and how it's going to be different this year. And there's lots of ways to be worried about what's been going on in our life recently, or we can just pause and treasure them. I mean, if Mary can do that after giving birth to a baby, and she wasn't in a hospital, she was in a barn with a bunch of stinky animals and hay and no medical attention, if she could treasure things then, you and I can right now. I think the key that Mary invites us to is, instead of being someone who quietly dismisses things and hopes they end, instead of being someone who's frantic and worried, we can just be present. This Christmas, would you choose, whether you have permission or not, and whether all your circumstances feel like they give you the space to do this or not, would you make the space to be present to what's happening in front of you? Remove your phone, remove your distractions, do something about your hurried, worried anxiety, and would you just breathe, ponder, and treasure things more than you've been, and more than maybe even the last few Christmases? Choose that for yourself and the people around you.